Greetings once more. There's the dark closet there. Looks darker in the video than what I'm seeing. I think I think part of learning something, anything, is realizing that you don't understand, not or at least not how as much as you should for any given thing. Because what is it that makes someone actually live right or have understanding? Or what does anyone understand? There's people, preachers, teachers, they speak words, and then the people listening think they understand. The preacher obviously thinks he understands, probably most of the time, thinks what he's saying is true. Something has to happen through some kind of experience. I think for someone to understand any given truth, has to live it, find out that they didn't understand it or didn't understand it like they should or were wrong. Otherwise they're just words on paper that don't have too much value or meaning if it's never been lived or experienced in some way, shape, or form. Like anybody could bring up a verse or two or from scripture or something else, and it goes in one ear and right out the other, or like people do so often, like I've done, say words, say things you think you understand, and then you play the hypocrite 5 minutes later or 2 days later. Sometimes it doesn't seem like there's like a catching up that needs to happen. Maybe someone's understanding something, but the actions just aren't catching up or following yet. Which I think is one of the more uh what's the word for it? Disappointing. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's all negative. It's just disappointing sometimes. The the hypocrisy that you see in yourself. And I mentioned a lot of times before, anybody can pretend and look good and put on their game, when they're in the public or around or wherever. I didn't open, but I've seen a lot of doors open, literally, physically, to houses, and you sort of get a sense for just a split second of what's going on, maybe with that person. I think maybe like when they open the door, or when you open the door in your own house, maybe you're not putting on that mask as much as you would be out in public, for a split second. I'm not, I'm seeing like a lot of people that don't look like they're doing so good. This job has been unique for me, anyways, in seeing that, because all I ever saw was people in the public, right, ready to pay, go and check their cars, see, behind the counter. people outside everywhere, but now I'm seeing people in their house for a split second. It's not like every house. That's not what I'm saying, but like I've seen a lot of like I don't know what's going on in there, but it looks like a bad time for a lot of these people. Maybe that's happening a little bit more than everyone realizes, or maybe people do realize it, they just don't want to really confront it or admit it, which is understandable. Who would want to admit that, you know, their life isn't doing so good on Facebook or something? You would want to do the opposite if you could. Make yourself look a little better than everything is, maybe. I think people do that. But specifically for the believer, though, I think, you know, there has to be, it's like necessary to almost go backwards a little bit or fall backwards before, before you can get up and go one more step higher. And that's usually, that for me, that hasn't been the greatest thing. Like to spiritually see that something's off, or scriptures speak of falling 7 times, and I don't think that's a literal actual 7 times, but the point is there's a certain amount of times someone's going to fall in their life. um, and this is just being really, I don't know, general, just overall. It's nothing specific that happened recently or anything. I'm just talking about overall ups and downs. So then maybe seeing some of these things, you could understand the scriptures that talk about repenting or whatever and going back to where you fell from. Like I think it says in Revelation, go back to the first thing, the above thing, first as in above everything else. Go back to that, or go, see where you've fallen from and repent. I read that in Revelation. And I think, I think for any believer, the standard gets higher, not lower. And when the standard gets higher, then you just see more failures. And it just keeps on going like that. I guess it has to go like that. So there's like no point where you see yourself as a good. At least I don't. Like of myself, I don't see any good. Because if it was true, then I definitely wouldn't need any help. I wouldn't need his word. I wouldn't need scripture. I wouldn't need the creator or the Messiah or anything, which is, the natural rebellious response. I don't need my parents. I'll do better than them my way. And then the kids don't do better, but it takes a while to find out, maybe. Uh, Earthly natural wisdom, whatever, maybe they should have listened. It would have been a little better off if they did. And, and then I look at people and it seems like I'm being punished more or something within, and maybe I'm not even doing as much damage within as other people. So, but this is just what it looks like on the surface. This isn't truth. So I think that's why I read those scriptures about, you know, you almost faint because the wicked seem to just get away with everything. It seems like you're being punished and they're not. and they're doing more damage than you are, and it seems unfair. And you read that in the scriptures, and then you read judgment's coming. Then you read they're getting away with it. Then you read they won't get away with it. Surely, their fall's going to be high and hard. And, it goes back and forth a few times, like in Psalm or Proverbs, maybe too, or other places. It seems like there could be no care or love at all for anything that's true, for truth or understanding. And they just go along. But, I don't think we see the right thing either, though. Because, like I said earlier, then the acting, we don't really see what's going on in each individual, especially if they're hundreds or thousands of miles away. And all you ever see is a video behind pixels of somebody else. Doesn't matter who. I think the world wants to believe it's doing just fine, that it's always been doing fine. It wants to believe it's good, and I don't think that's all wrong or bad, but it's out of the wrong reason, though, I think. Uh, because without acknowledging, if people want to believe that they're good, truly good, this is like the ultimate sin. This is the perfect opposite thing of what, how to live or admit who and what you are. Because Messiah, if he's the example, then he denied himself completely and never went around saying how good he is of himself. There is no such thing. There's no such verse. But there is an opposite. There is an opposite verse, though, that says, "Of myself I do nothing." And not my will, your will. What's the point of this video? The point, um, I think the point I want to make is sometimes it seems too slow. Like I would like to see more progress faster. And then you don't see what you want to see. So you just never get to get what you want, I guess. Um, I think people thinking that they get everything they want is some kind of delusion too. I suppose it would be just as easy to lie to yourself and say that you do get everything you want, because you could always twist it in your mind. Just change the details a little, and then you got what you wanted. And if it wasn't exactly like you wanted, well, change the details just a little bit, and then make a workaround, make an excuse, and then you got what you wanted just by lying to yourself. Now, sounds like somebody that would do that definitely needs a little help. Uh, I don't think said person would be able to openly admit it, because if they've been lying to themselves since they were born, practically, then to admit something like that would be to tell the truth against yourself. It would be against the pride and ego of yourself. I don't even think I don't even know that this video will make any sense, because I'm having a hard time putting it in words. So words can only do so much to understand something. Why is human nature so angry? So I'm seeing that a lot too. It's always angry. And what's the number one reason? I think it's because, very general statement is, you didn't get what you wanted. That's why it's so angry. Most of the time, it's going to be down to that reason. something didn't go exactly like you wanted. So there comes the anger and wrath, and people kill each other too. I'm trying to even think of another reason. I don't even know if there is one. There is, I guess, well, not really. Like if somebody that you care about passes away, you could say, well, that causes anger. Yeah, but it's because something happened that you didn't want. Something you wanted, you didn't get. So it really does come back to that. And then we're supposed to not ask for our own will or, give me what I want, my will, give me what I want. It's the opposite of that. Um, so the connection is wanting to get what you want, and getting what you want will probably cause anger, but not getting what not wanting that constantly will start causing the opposite, maybe some peace. Um, Not wanting to get what you, or not expecting to get what you want all the time. I wish I could see the perfect thing a little better, but I'm obviously I can't, because we read he's the perfect judge. But I don't know that anyone would admit that that's what it looks like from our perspective. I don't think it looks like that. At least not a lot of times. Most of the times it doesn't look like this, but the scriptures actually teach that it doesn't look like that, which is interesting. It does give our perspective. It's for our benefit. There's my annoying loud, got some kind of probably spam email, unsubscribing constantly to stuff I've never subscribed. So the answer really is just like denying yourself, giving up. But then, like, even when you do that, I don't always see, or I don't always see like an instant change. Uh, so it's like you have to go through some kind of grueling process where the prayer is being answered over a span of such and such time, but you're thinking more like 5 minutes or 3 weeks. But what you're asking for is going to take 40 years. So then, so if you expect it to be 15 minutes or 3 weeks, then from your perspective, your prayer's never answered. What if nobody's given 15 minutes? What if no one in the world has ever had that in 3 weeks or 20 minutes or whatever? They want to see themselves um, to be like, to what they're starting to understand, to actually be that. So then he made it impossible, I think, to become that in 15 minutes. Um, for a reason. It sure would be nice for that to happen, and I think it does happen. Then when it happens, then you have to experience how short that lasted, and then another fall or screw up or some kind of spiritual problem. That 15 minutes sure is pretty short. It would have been nice to be at least 20 minutes that you could have been where you wanted to be spiritually. So it's not to say it never happens, it just doesn't seem to last. Um, Someone might say, well, you're not doing something right. Well, that's what I'm admitting every day. I don't know, I'm pretty sure the person saying that doesn't understand, because if you made it to the top, if that's how they're that's what they're implying, that something's wrong. Well, yeah, something's wrong. That's my point. But they speak from the perspective of, I've been at the top all along. You must be doing something wrong. I don't think I know that person. Like we're definitely not spiritually, you know, one in the body then, because I would sure like to know what you did, what tricks you pulled to, speak from your position. Uh, and maybe people do that more often than everybody knows. Even people that give truth or speak truth, they really aren't what they're saying, not completely. The actual image is always worse than the words put up on the screen. Behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz. Here's the projection, here's what you think, here's what I sound like, and then look at that. Hollywood teaches the same thing, doesn't it? Just some weak little loser man behind the scene, you know. And this really is everybody. And to some degree, these people, these evil rulers of the world know this, but they never change. But they have some kind of knowledge of this. They're not totally oblivious, ignorant. Now, they might not have true spiritual understanding or proper understanding of scripture and belief in all of this, but they, uh, you know, people can see that the history has been pretty violent. It's not a secret that man's violent. It's violent now. But when I say that, I'm not talking about just knives and guns. Like, it's violent spiritually. Uh, the things that I see as the creator, you know, putting at the top, caring about the most, it's violent. Like a wicked heart from within, that's what he's looking at. So, not stabbing someone or shooting someone doesn't mean a whole lot to me. That's good. That's great. I would never want to do that or have someone else do that. Um, but that person can and is still wicked because the heart is messed up. It's not somebody that's wicked isn't, I'd almost take some bad guy, robber, or whatever image that people have and say, look, that's evil. There it is. And I recall a movie I watched a while, it's been a while, pretty graphic, bloody movie, right? That everyone's probably seen. What's it called? Scarface, I think. You know, there is one moment in that movie that stood out to me. They they tell you these things all over in Hollywood, who they really are, or how they work, in darkness. They really do all those things that Scripture says, but people that become religious, they think they've escaped that, or now they're not that, but everyone else is. This is where pride comes in and all the secret sins that people hide. Everyone does it. He points to everyone around them, rich people. You know, I'm the bad guy. You all say I'm the bad guy. Just like a moment of truth and chaos. And something like they're all the bad guys. You just need someone to point at, and blame and put it all on, which I feel like religion in general does a good job of doing that. pointing fingers, blaming. It's their free will fault. Let's not talk about truth and something meaningful or valuable on how to maybe help genuinely. Let's just blame and point fingers. I wouldn't have done that. I'm not that evil kind of attitude. So all those rich people, in this case, this example, but it's really anybody, need someone to point to so they can hide in darkness, like we read. They don't want to be exposed to the light. This doesn't exclude religion or anybody. This doesn't exclude believers. Obviously not. Any believer, it doesn't exclude them. That is the true darkness that people hide in, is in their own good religion, like the Pharisees. When he said man would rather be in darkness than come out in the light, he's talking about them, believers, so-called fake believers, but then even the true believer really isn't sin-free either. I suppose it's the difference between being in the battle and not being in the battle. That's the only difference between a saint and a sinner. Saints are at war and everyone else isn't. It's not that they're better. It's not that they never screw up or aren't evil or have sin in their life. But I haven't watched. I don't even have TV. I have a screen. I haven't been connected ever. But I have watched some movies. I would be far behind most people, but I've seen some of these, and later on, that's what I started watching for, is just the actual message, the metaphors. Towards the end of like watching a bunch of that stuff, that's all I look for. I didn't really care about anything else. Like everyone else is looking at the entertainment while I'm picking up everything that they're telling you right in your face over and over again. One interesting thing that I've seen over and over again is, the basically the scriptures, his word, or the Messiah, his death, humanity in dark, these major things, they put like a different face on it or a different name on it. Like Matrix did this too. They even have the word Zion in there, coming out of the Matrix. They made their own little thing, but it's based off of the scriptures, basically. A lot of these things, sacrificing for somebody else, Why do they even bother doing that, When nobody's even paying attention anyways. And I think they know that people only watch movies for just strictly entertainment, mostly. And dissecting the plot, but not really truly like the meanings behind a lot of these things. It's like if the devil gets a kick out of like almost showing off how evil they are, or it takes some kind of pride in what it does, in the things it creates. People create the evil ideas, devices to do evil. It takes pride in it. I think that's part of why, but they always have to throw it in your face like, I told you so. You can't say I didn't tell you. Almost like that kind of attitude overall. They always tell you everything before it happens, I wouldn't say everything, but a lot of things, like a warning. It's like it's inevitable for people to go into some kind of evil or disease or plagues or whatever. They just can't stop it. It's all messed up and mixed up. See, I don't think it's possible for billionaires to be genuine, true people. You have to be corrupt if you're a billionaire, or even, millionaires. There's always like room for a couple few exceptions, people that might get pulled out of their delusion. But, in general, you got tons of money, goods, it corrupts you like automatically. There's nothing you could do about it. It'll just corrupt you, period. It would corrupt me. It would corrupt you. It would corrupt everyone. Everyone who says they wouldn't be corrupted would be corrupted even more. Not that they already aren't corrupted, but it would just corrupt them more. It wouldn't make their life better. It wouldn't save anything. Wouldn't change anything. Being able to buy a giant house and retire by winning the lottery, like, wouldn't give them what they're looking for. But people still want it. Still want to believe that that's what it does. It never will. So since it doesn't do what they might think, what they kind of want it to do, because the scriptures say that, it doesn't do that, it can't do that, gaining the whole world won't do anything for you, then the only thing left is to hope that it does and keep pursuing it. Then when you get more, you keep pursuing more, hoping that when you get more, it's going to do this. And then when you get more, you keep pursuing, you build like a false hope. And it never happens, because if it were to happen, if that really truly was happening all around the world, then scriptures are a lie. Creator's a liar. Gaining the whole world can save you from sin and death, corruption, can save your soul. But I don't know of any verse that says, get as rich as you can, gain the whole world. This is how you will find truth, salvation. No. So then it's never true for anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. If the eye of man can't ever be satisfied, then the only thing left to do is just keep pursuing more. People lie to themselves as if they're not doing that. Well, I'm not a billionaire, so I'm not really doing that. But I'm doing the best I can within whatever I have to get more and more and more. But I'm not, because I compare myself to somebody who has way more. This makes me good automatically. How does that make someone good or right or better when the intentions are exactly the same, and that's what he cares about, the intentions? Being poor doesn't make you good. Being rich doesn't make you good. Neither do. Being poor doesn't automatically make someone humble. Poor people would want, if they had opportunity given to them, the right skills, timing, everything given to them, would do what all those other people do if they had the opportunity. They just don't have the opportunity at that time. I think there's a common teaching that says, you could be whatever you want. It's going back to the blame thing again. People who don't have much, it's their fault. They did it to themselves. There's like a little truth to this, but the way they teach it, it's a lie though. There's mixing with lies. Because if those rich people were those poor people, they would be in the same situation, but they would never acknowledge that. What they're saying, it seems to me, is that if a kid was born, his parents both had 170 IQ on an island and no one ever spoke to him, would he ever learn how to talk, despite having two parents with insane IQ? Well, what they're saying is yes, he would be able to learn how to talk, uh, because his parents both have IQ. Therefore, he would learn how to speak and talk, even though he never heard a word in his life since he was born. If someone never heard a word, how are they going to know how to talk? They won't. And then if you even start doing right things for the right reasons, no one's going to believe you. This is called false humility, which there's a very real chance of that actually happening. And it is most of the time for most people. But, every now and then, a few people, they might do something with true intentions, but no one's going to believe them because they never seen it before. Not, they've never actually seen it. They know themselves that they would never, they know the reasons why they would do such and such. So obviously he's no different than I am. He's faking it just like I would, but then I'll point the finger at them, call out their false humility, even though that's what I am myself. Of course, they would never acknowledge that that's what they are, but ready to point the finger though. So it comes back to hypocrisy, um, which is basically being, creating an image that you're really not. That's hypocrisy. Here's my image, but really this is not who I am. Here's Wizard of Oz, but behind the scenes, in the darkness, this is not. My goodness, that's loud. This is not who he is. So, this is true for everyone. True for rich, famous sports players. It's true for uh, all kinds of people in government, people with power, especially people with power, because it just corrupts even more. The amount of like opinions and divisions is mind numbing, and there's so many laws and rules and regulations. I think California just passed like an ungodly amount of new laws just recently. No one's going to read, no one knows. There's, who keeps track of all this? Like literally billions of laws if they're all combined to try to keep this beast in check, running to some kind of degree. Order out of chaos. It is chaos, but there's, you know, the worldly order out of the worldly chaos. Um, has its own way of running, has its own logic, and people have to acknowledge it, that it's the true way, it's the right way. There is no other way. It has to be like this, and that's that. Uh, Someone growing up in school and then getting ready to work for a living, they didn't have any other choice. There was no other choice. This is what you have to do. You have to fit. You have to go along and get along with everything and everyone. If you don't, well, you won't make as much money and you definitely won't have any friends if you don't get along, go along with every way of this world. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants 1,000 likes on YouTube and Facebook. They don't want negatives. In fact, you can't even see the down likes, the dislikes in YouTube. Always made me wonder why that is. What's the thing even for? Why is there a down thumb on YouTube when I've never seen a down anything for comments? For videos, yeah, but not for comments. You could give a thumbs down for a comment, but no one sees anything. I don't see anything anyways. I've never seen it. I've only seen the positive. That's the only thing people can accept. So the Creator has a lot to say, a lot of criticism, more than anything good, because there is no good. So it would just be, here's what you're doing wrong, and here's what you are. And nobody wants to hear that. They want thumbs up. Creator's not giving thumbs up. It says deny yourself. Messiah denied himself. I don't know who people think he is, was, and is. What do they think that means? I don't think they actually believe he had his, you know, own will as a human being, as a man. Like, they don't actually believe that. A real man, person, who the Father spoke to through the Spirit and taught and guided from his birth how to live and what truth is. I don't I don't think people really believe this. It's just thrown around pretty casually. Certain truths, certain things. I don't know that they actually dwell on it or believe it. Like, it's almost just cute to say, not my will, but your will be done. Do they actually believe that though? Like, Messiah really didn't do his will? The people that speak about these things, false teachers and everything, they're literally doing their own will every single day. Can they see that or not? I know that's what's going on. I know that's what's going on, and people are just a joke, a lie, just like we're warned of frauds, false prophets, teachers that aren't who people like they make themselves to be. They aren't. It's not who they are. If I'm thinking about these things every day and still not being where I want to be or still battling it every day, these people who don't even think about it, they just somehow attained it. They're already there. They attained it. They're perfect already. Oh, yeah, I don't do my will. I do the Father's will every day. Oh, really? I don't think they know what that even means, not even remotely, what it means to do the Father's will. I'm not sure I know what that means. I'll probably learn more later. I'm pretty sure I'm not doing the Father's will perfectly. Um, it's not to say I don't want to, but to say that like I'm doing it perfectly would mean that I understand all things and I'm there already, which I don't think anybody is. Um, Moses didn't become who he was in 40 days. It's more like 40 years. Then he was called the meekest man on the earth. But in the beginning, hey, he killed an Egyptian. It's not very meek, you know? So I see someone that was zealous for the people, maybe zealous for truth or for our Creator, his people, for how to live, what to do, get them out of this slavery. But he didn't really understand, did he? No, he couldn't have understood. Not where he needed to understand. Whatever he understood was day 2, day 20, day 40. That's what he understood. He can't understand anything beyond that until he gets there to day 200, year 20, year 30. Now he can look back and say that he didn't understand, but he thought he did. Sure thought he did. Oh, yeah, I'm perfect. I see all things. I understand. Yeah. I killed that Egyptian, right? It was the right thing, and I'm doing the right. My intentions are good. Everything about me is right. When someone becomes a dedicated preacher for a denomination, that's their image from that point on, and most of them are in there for life, you know. It's a life thing for most of them that I know of. Kind of like being a king or a pope. It's for life. Unless you want out. Most don't want out. I can say why they don't want out, but nobody in the congregation would believe that. You know, they actually believe that they're in there to really want to help people. That's what they want to do. They want to help people so badly. That's what they care about. They don't care about their own glory or their own selfish, prideful ambitions. No, not at all. They already attained what takes 40 years and 40 days. That's who they are. If someone just understood that, then they would see how many false teachers there are, how people in general are just no good. And then, you know, if everyone acknowledged this, there would be a change, a growing change. But if you don't acknowledge this, then he didn't come to heal perfect people. He didn't come to heal the righteous. We're already at the 40-year mark. You know, he didn't come to heal them. Oh, you're there? Okay, you don't need healing, so I won't heal you. Heal you of what? Your skin disease? Or something a lot deeper than that? Heal you of your physical blindness or something much deeper than physical blindness? Healing of your deafness or something much deeper than being deaf physically? Not to say he can't do those things, but you know, I'm pretty sure the spiritual things of that, they're like shadows types of the spiritual higher things, are the more important things. I would see them as the weightier matters of the law are invisible. If you can see it, touch it, smell it, it's probably not the most important thing. But then you can't see it, touch it, and smell it. So then if you're not spiritual, then there's no value or benefit. So then the only value or benefit could be something you could touch, see, taste, smell. That's it. Limited to that only. That's where all the focus and importance would go. As long as your body's feeling good, you must have the spirit of the creator in you. Drugs make you feel good. I suppose that means you have the Holy Spirit in you now. It's kind of what their logic is, you know, because I've seen a lot of videos about people shaking and falling backwards and jumping up and down, you know. With the same logic, then everyone at a rock concert has the Holy Spirit and they're very full of it. They're full of it, just not the Holy Spirit. How to distinguish between flesh and spirit, feeling good and being lifted up or walking in the spirit. Huge difference, but I don't, you know, someone that's carnal doesn't understand, they would see it to be the same thing. That's what that is. It's as good as it gets. I must be. I must have the spirit according to what I read because I feel good, you know. I don't see that teaching in there anymore. Um, you know, like since the flesh has nothing to do with the spirit, then feeling bad doesn't mean you don't have the spirit, does it? Or in physical pain doesn't mean you don't have his spirit, does it? No, it doesn't guarantee you have it, but it also doesn't mean you don't have his spirit. But the natural first reaction would be, oh, he's getting punished, you know. Look what Job went through. He must have done something real evil. This could be true, but it's not always true. Look at Jonah, man. He must have done something really wicked and filthy, right? That's going to be the automatic assumption from everyone that's carnal. It doesn't mean that they did something hugely wicked, like what they're thinking, but they got some other sin within that they have to be chastised over. It's got to be corrected, and the storm's coming so that you repent, and the carnal person, the storm means something else to them. It has nothing to do with judgment or something they're doing wrong. But as soon as a believer goes through something like that, oh yeah, he's a full-time, full-blown sinner. We're scared of the waves and the storm just as much as he is, but you know, it must be him who's causing it. Throw him overboard. We're good. We're afraid of this storm. It's definitely not our problem. It's not coming from us. It's only from him. The serpent made me do it, and Adam said, Eve gave it to me. He didn't say, I sinned against the Creator. My fault. My bad. My sin. I repent now. I could see that I did evil. No, Eve gave it to me. Serpent gave it to me. The devil made me do it. Yeah, that's kind of true. It's not true. The devil made me, but you are the one that actually ends up doing it, and there's no one you can give excuses to. You did it. You can't really blame anyone else. You did this act, but the person has to understand why he did what he did, and people are just quick to blame. They're not looking into the whys, they're just looking into blaming so that they can be excused, so they can see themselves as good. Put someone in a box, blame them, put a title over it, throw it overboard, treat it as trash and garbage so that they can look clean themselves. I think that's what's going on every day. Um, so the believers have to, they're not gonna live without his judgment working in them if they really are a believer. They're just gonna keep getting blown with fire because they're under his judgment, specific chastising judgment that the world cannot see or doesn't believe in, you know. The world doesn't believe that it's dead or that it's not doing good. It believes the exact opposite. Now, when it's all by itself, it might see that to some extent, but when it's out and about, no, that's not true. We're all good people doing pretty good. Uh, you know, the main thing I think that a lot of people don't see is that they they don't know the scriptures. They don't know that the Father's actually good, like we read. So I believe they imagine some kind of evil scenario for everything, worst case scenario. And this doesn't actually happen over and over all the time to people. They don't get what they deserve, really. They receive more mercy than people think, because when religion imagines people being tortured and this is what's going to happen, this is what they deserve, this is what's coming. They don't acknowledge any such judgment going on right now in their life. They would never be able to see that because it's a spiritual judgment. So they're carnal, they're not going to accept or believe that. Um, People always want to see more punishment, you know, than they really deserve. They always want to see more, someone receive more vengeance or punishment that's that's due. Um, but this is not who our Creator is. It's not what the Scriptures teach. The exact opposite, patient. Now, this patience has nothing to do with our patience. Um, it's far greater. And to even say it's greater is not really right either. There wouldn't be any patience of the saints if it wasn't for the Creator working in them, because people don't have patience. It doesn't come from themselves. And when you have to force something really bad, it's not genuine and it's still no good. If that is accepted as a definition also, then nobody has patience, because if I have to force being patient, but inside I'm burning up, I'm just restricting the worst possible case scenario, restricting myself, holding back from killing or doing such and such. But look how good I am. You see, I have patience. I didn't do anything, but inside it's like you know, trying so hard not to, meaning that you still want to really badly. If you're sweating bullets about it, then you haven't really changed yet, not to where you need to be. Or if any sin is being resisted with tears, like like being forced almost, like, man, just not gonna do such and such, and it's real heavy on them, then they still want it too much. So how do you make that go away? How do you make what humans love naturally go away? What can he do? Remind himself, make a note on the phone, put an alarm, remind yourself. It never works. None of those things work. It's like a game you play with yourself, and everyone's done it. I've done it. Then I've come to realize there is no notes or clock or app or anything that can really help, or you, hopefully you see what I'm saying. There is no, if you have to do that, it's just a matter of time before you fail. I'll remind myself every day. Yeah, but then you'll find a way not to remind yourself. I'll put a note on the car, on my window. Then you'll learn how not to look at it while you're driving. Or one day you'll just throw it away. It's never going to work. So what on earth is it then? Well, then it's basically a miracle then that needs to happen daily. This rich man walked away sad. Who who on earth then could be saved? This isn't, that's insane. Then nobody could be saved then. Well, yeah, with man it's impossible. Nobody believes that. But with the Creator, with the Father, all things are possible. That's the word impossible in there. It's not even remotely possible. It's not possible for that man that walked away sad to do anything of himself good. Then he could go to the Creator and say, look what I did, how good it is. The only picture I can come up with, maybe a little bit, is like it's like a pawn on a chessboard doing some tiny little thing, and you're looking down at it, and you could wipe out the whole game just by one swift move. And you created this game, this pawn, this plastic piece, uh, and this pawn says from down there, it does this tiny little act, and it says, look at me, look how good I am. Surely, you know, now I deserve whatever I want to get now. I should get whatever I want now because I did this. Look how good I am. It's not to take away that he's the rewarder of those that do good, but this is um weird way of, it's a strange truth because he is the rewarder of those who do good, but he causes people to do good. Now people are going to have a problem with that kind of teaching. They want to do good of their own free will, and they want it to be from themselves so that they can congratulate and tap themselves on the back. This is sin. This is pride. This is what scriptures teach all along. Um, but they're going to struggle with that, free will, because free will is like a beast. It's a monster. If it was so good, then our history wouldn't be so ugly and brutal. Now, not a single person has ever chosen to do good, truly good, and keep all his commandments and laws their whole entire life. Nobody can choose that. How come no one's freely choosing to the right sometimes? At least 10%, at least 2% of people. Oh, all my life I'm perfect. I've done good every time. Within, I've never hated someone in my mind, not even once. Is that going to even be brought up? No. The things that are going to be brought up is like, I never killed anyone. I never stole. I didn't commit physical adultery. When you bring up the spiritual part of the law, then definitely everyone's a failure and a sinner, and falls short pretty badly. So all humanity goes astray and chooses this. They do the exact same thing Adam and Eve does over and over, and there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe that's a little frustrating, but you have to get through it somehow. That breaking down of pride, that, well, I guess I'm never going to be able to live up to his standard as long as I keep thinking I can do it. This simple truth right there is what nobody's doing. And when I say nobody, it's just a contrast. This is the very thing that's like the sin, the ultimate sin. I can do it myself. There it is. That's simple truth right there. But when you're religious, um, man's way of religion, anyways, all the different kinds, all the different religions, you could sort of bypass this and make it look like we created something good, therefore we're good, and hide behind it. You know, the very thing that is required, they're doing the opposite. The very reason they created all of that is so that they can do the opposite. They don't even know what they're doing. It's so bad. Um, you know, the moment someone joins one of these divided denominations, then they automatically associate themselves with good. I'm a good person within. I'm just good in general. The bad guys are outside. They need to join us, our denomination. And this truth is tied to all the other truths. The one that beats his chest and says, I'm a sinner, you know, I'm filthy. That one was accredited to as righteousness. And he can be called righteous or like good or something like this, but it's, you have to understand it's not him that's good though. But he could be called that. Doesn't mean he's literally perfect, but it's the Father's righteousness in them. Without this, there is no overcoming sin. It doesn't exist. There's all kinds of tools and ways to make it look like you can, all kinds of pathways, all kinds of rabbit holes and paths and religions and divisions of the religions. But then there's only one way that leads to this truth, and it ends up in death. So the Messiah didn't live and then continue to live. He had to, die. This is the true path. You walk with him, follow him, and then eventually you die. And I don't believe the full thing can happen now, but it's just happening constantly, but it's not happening in the full. It can't. In the flesh, he didn't save anyone. The Messiah didn't save a single person. Nobody received the Spirit yet. He healed people's physical blindness, uh, diseases, right? But what about spiritually? Were any of them healed? And then we have the example of the one walking, running away, right? And then did he come back to like say thanks or something, or did he continue to go on in the flesh, after being healed? Not really thankful for it, but the one that's healed of many things is more thankful for it. So this is just a really lazy talk that I'm probably gonna end up deleting because I don't know if I like it that much. Not that I don't like what I'm saying, but it's really slow, I think. Probably repeating myself over and over again, but I suppose we could talk about, you know, what do people talk about on YouTube? Ministers want, want to see how to get rich quick. Just give me some money. Give me some money, and you'll get rich. The God of this world wants to see you happy in this life and prosper and have everything. He wants you to have it all, have all the blessings that you were meant to inherit as your rightful possession that you deserve. so much and so dearly deserve. Come to our denomination today. Come to our mega church today for free. Donuts and coffee provided, air conditioning, nice seats, and lots of other people that also want to prosper and become rich and famous and get what they deserve. Just nothing but a prideful, self-righteous teaching. What these people teach, they're so blind. But they know they're doing evil. They know they're liars and snakes. Deep down inside, they know it. There's just nothing they can do about it. They can't not do it. That's the truth. They can't not be snakes. This is who and what people are. They're frauds, liars, wishful thinking, anything but truth, anything but actually living the true way. Within, we're talking about sins within, not not physical without, from the outside sins that they make a good show of how clean they are and all that. And even then, it's not even clean. The natural things aren't even clean. So how on earth is the spiritual going to be the clean? The they're not even physically clean. They're unclean. They don't even keep the natural laws. If they're unclean physically, then how on earth are they clean spiritually? I don't think it's possible to be unclean naturally, physically, to have no natural care or understanding, then to be able to have spiritual understanding. It's not possible. One leads to the other. First the natural, then the spiritual. If someone doesn't even understand the natural things, then they're definitely not going to understand the spiritual meaning of that natural thing. So it's like it's a little bit it's crazy because really there's not many. I don't know how many people aren't that Wizard of Oz. Who's not that? If you are that, then it's just hypocrisy. So how on earth to be perfect then? So I think Paul obviously had this same battle, understanding, struggle, right? Um, who will save me? Who will deliver me from this bondage, corruption of death? Oh, wretched man, I am the flesh is, of himself. But then he says, Messiah, thank Messiah, thank Master. How does it word it? You know, in him, that's the way. But there was no like physical answer or natural answer. But in Messiah, true belief, his work in us is the answer. I don't think that's the answer people are looking for. As I genuinely see it, the answer people are looking for is something that like the mega preacher teachers have to offer. And I'm just just relaxing here and kind of tired, so this video is extremely slow and boring, I guess. But uh, I don't. The answer, the true answer that the scriptures teach of what mankind needs, people aren't looking for that answer. It looks like they're looking for that answer, if I could say it like that, because I think the actual genuine honest answer to what people are looking for, they're not going to like, you know. Now, if sin is a battle as bad as it is every day, then it's definitely not something you really like want or like of yourself. If that wasn't, if that wasn't, then it wouldn't be a battle. Then people would, this is what they would want, this is what they would do, this is who they would become. Simple and done, just like that. But no, it's like a really two opposing things. 180 from each other, there's no unity. I don't think the division isn't spiritual. So if I consider all the division out here, you know, that pretty much leaves all of it as unspiritual. I mean, who did all that? Who divided? Who did all these things? I mean, the people that claim truth and claim to teach truth, without them, there wouldn't be division of whatever it is they're teaching or whatever religion. There wouldn't be division if it wasn't for them. There wouldn't be a beast world with the beast system if it wasn't for people make up the beast system, the beast kingdom of this world, beastly. Prideful, self-righteous beast. That's what humanity is. So it would be nice if it was different. I know people will make, excuses and say that all these divisions are one, they're all one in the same body, and that there's no issue with this at all. Everybody's one. Doesn't matter how many denominations, Uh, then you'll get teachers exposing the people, the people who bring up the divisions. But they're really, some of them are going against the truth, though, against the script, what Messiah said plainly. First of all, this is the devil's world, his system, his world, in and of this world. The people that expose to sort of, I don't know, make look bad, make themselves look better, I guess, might be their true intention, maybe not everyone, but I bring it up because it's just plain and evident to me. It's obvious that it's divided and it's a problem. The people who are exposing people, that they say something like, why are we divided? There's 30 something thousand denominations and people are saying this, and such, blah, blah, blah. I get what they're trying to say. I wish it would be different, but they all have something in common, though. Christianity has something pretty much in common. They all have their Trinity God, which is interesting. They all have in common Trinity delusion. Catholics, Christians, all denominations, they all have that in common. Trinity. This is the God of this world. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I've learned, figured out. That the Trinity is the God of this world. Just one of many forms of the God of this world. You know, Messiah came to bring a sword. He said he didn't come to bring peace, but a sword. Division. Oops. So much for calling out the people as like some kind of error or false for bringing up these problems and divisions. He came to bring it, not for his own body group of believers. That's not what it's speaking of. But he came to divide his people from all the false. So all these divisions is for that reason. That's what's going on. These are all divided and mixed up and messed up because there's a spiritual problem, division, false God, false deities, false everything, false teachings. That's why this division exists. So that's inevitable. It's going to be there. He came to bring a sword to divide the goats from the sheep, which causes division, which is what scriptures teach over and over again, to be separate from all the other nations and anybody that's against the truth. Doesn't matter who or what. So his people are supposed to be separate or divided from the rest of all the world and all its own divisions. It takes care of itself. You be separate from all these other things, this world. And his word separates his people. This is the sword. It cuts and divides between bone and marrow. A fine line, slightly to the left or right, and there's a lot of damage done. So his word is going out, and it's dividing and it's destroying the false and the world and the way of this world. It's destroying them. They're getting waxing worse and worse spiritually and more separated from the Father as time goes on in their life. People don't see this. This is what's happening. They're separated more and more, more and more and more. That's the only path to continually be more separated, more rebellious, and have a, you know, no understanding, less and less understanding. But that understanding is taken from them, what little they had. And then the other side, they're growing, and they're supposed to be getting closer and closer and closer. So if you're not getting closer and closer and closer, you're getting further and further and further in your life in this world from our Creator. This is what religion and all its divided denominations and confusion does. It gets you further and further and further from our Creator. Giving someone $1 million wouldn't help them see that. Giving someone $20 billion wouldn't make them see this. Wouldn't make them see that. What do they say about these verses? So many of them they ignore and never really teach on. Never. they want to try to hide their contradictions and their twisted lies, They want to try to hide that. They don't like that verse. They don't like those words that came from his mouth. I bring a sword. I didn't come to bring peace on earth. I came to bring division. Sword between my people and his people. See, is separation. He does this with the authority given to him by the Father. He says what the Father says because he's been given all things. He does what the Father does because he's been given all things. I wouldn't expect anyone to like this truth, this this division, this sword that he came to bring. Goats from the sheep. He came to separate it, divide it. Didn't come to bring peace. And this is this world, the same world that you're in and not supposed to be of. This is the same world still. Obviously, this teaching is very specific to what this world is. It's not to say it'll go on like this forever. He came to bring destruction and chaos. That's not what he's saying. It's spiritual understanding. He came to teach, to chastise, to separate his people from the world and the way of this world during this evil present age, that's going on. That's the contrast, light and darkness. That's the way it's got to be. So, peace on earth, goodwill toward man. That's that's another teaching, separate from I came to bring a sword and not peace on earth. It's two different things. Two completely different things. It's living his word. That's what Messiah did. He lived the Father's words, lived it. So he was separated from all the others of this world, including all the fakes, all the Pharisees, all the other so-called believers. He was separate from them, spiritually, not one with them. And the only ones that he calls brothers, sisters, mothers, father, are those who do the Father's will. So it's not physical importance what someone is, what color or whatever. He'll call someone a brother, sister, anyone who wants to do the Father's will, seeks to do the Father's will. Only them are actually called brothers. The others can't be called that. They're you know they're called enemies. They have to be called that. And he surely didn't contradict himself and call them fools when he says those who call their brother a fool is in danger of Gehenna judgment. If you call someone a fool, a brother, but they weren't his brothers though. And they were looking and waiting and watching for him to make some kind of screw up, some kind of sin. And he didn't do that. So he didn't screw up. He didn't make a mistake when he said they're snakes and fools, and people aren't going to say that with the right intentions, but, I see it as when the Father calls us a fool, it's a lot different than a random man on the street calling someone a fool. It has completely different intentions. Fool, to see it and realize it, it's for your benefit. But when the natural man calls someone a fool, It's to make them look bad and try to destroy them, make themselves look better. So with that in mind, then it's quite the challenge not to be a true hypocrite then, because what's going on in that little heart of everyone. So it really does seem impossible to do it as I understand, to live it as I understand to live it. I come into that, or I'm seeing that better, more, how impossible it is. So it's impossible. No way. Another human calling a human a hypocrite or a fool. What are the odds that they are also that? 100%. I mean, unless, they're going through some kind of change, fire, unless they're learning, unless they're not one of those that are ever learning and never coming to knowledge of truth, but it definitely doesn't come from my own power. So it's better to just not talk as much, I think. Better not to say anything when in doubt, probably. Or, and I'm talking about with your mind. Don't even say something with your mind, unless it's a truly righteous judgment and you're not a hypocrite, then you could maybe say something. So with that understanding in mind, then I'm pretty sure I've fallen short. Everyone's fallen short. I see it as impossible. So I always acknowledge it as impossible. Like I can't be like that. How you want me to be? Now I could try as hard as I can. I could want it to, but spirit is willing, flesh is weak. Spirit wants to do whatever Father says, but flesh doesn't, and it keeps screwing up. So what on earth? When are the actions, the true intentions going to catch up with what I understand? Well, I don't know when exactly. Um, it's not going to be like one day. Oh, here it'll be one day in the future, 2 weeks from now, one day. You'll be perfect. I think this is one of the main differences between people that just have like a part-time kind of interest versus true believers is is that if you're not like in this battle constantly, then you're not growing for sure. Definitely not. And you're not overcoming these sins I'm talking about within. They're definitely not. Because I know it's impossible within myself, or if I've said I'm going to do something with boldness by my own power, it's like um, even more likely that I'll fail sooner just because I said that out of some kind of pride, like, oh yeah, I could do this, I could do that, I'll do that without without any assistance, thank you. I guess all kinds of things could be mentioned, but I'm gonna wrap it up. All kinds of like spiritual problems could be talked about that, when these things are brought up, it's when people get angry and start hiding and making things up and falsely accusing. This is this is what Messiah did to the Pharisees, is expose that inward of who and what they are, and it made them angry because no one ever done it. No one's ever got them like that. No one's ever had true understanding answers given back to them. All this time, it's just been a game of who can win debates, and now we have the Messiah, a true teacher, giving them real answers, and they could see that he actually lives this, cares about the Father's truth, and is living it. And this makes them angry because they know they aren't. And maybe in the beginning they really wanted to, but then they saw nobody else doing it. They saw no one else really caring, and they see other people slipping up with certain sins more and more, so they just go along to get along. This must be as good as it gets. Oh yeah, faith. I overcame sin and death. It's over. Saved. Perfect now. So then when they see a real believer coming along their path, um, you know, broken a little bit, beaten spiritually, sweating, bruised, they get angry because they aren't in the battle. They're not in it. Many called, few chosen to drink this cup that the Messiah drank. So each person has to find out for themselves what truth is, has to be given by the Father individually, of what this verse means or what that verse means, or what to do, what to say, how to live every day, all of it, every word. They have to find out and know that for themselves. And then when they do learn things, it should start lining up with another true believer somewhere else with what they've learned individually with their own path, because the same teacher's teaching them. It should start lining up. But each person has to go through their own life experience path of his truth themselves. They have to. But when you got 30,000 teachers, you're going to come up with all kinds of different things. But if the same teacher is teaching somebody, then they're going to have something in common. This this is why they wanted somebody. They didn't want to hear the Father's voice working in them, the Israelites. They wanted this teacher, and then another group would have wanted somebody else, and then they would have came up with their own better ways and called it this, and others would call it that. And it would sort of look like it's okay, like it looks like this is good, or this is one, this is the true body. It's going to have some kind of resemblance on, it might look like it a little bit, but it's not actually coming from our creator's teaching truth. When it comes from man's understanding or man's teaching, then it's coming from whatever they understand, which is no good. Lean not on your own understanding. Believe that once, believe it forever, understand it. Well, that's a lot to do. That's just as easy as loving your neighbor as yourself. That's all you have to do. Just don't lean on your own understanding. Simple, right? Uh, I mean, that includes everything. What isn't connected to lean not on your own understanding? Every thought, every word, every deed is connected to that. They make it sound like some kind of theology, and then that's it. Oh, the prophets, the laws hangs on two things: love your neighbor as yourself, love God. Um, then why am I struggling so much doing that and you're not? What's going on? I'm the sinner, right? And you're the saint. It's always going to be backwards. You know, they're the righteous ones, and the few believers are the foul sinners with demons. Oh, you admit such and such sins or problems? Wow, you're evil. Oh, you don't? you're definitely a hypocrite. Because I know of no one that uh, is keeping his spiritual law perfectly, and they just overnight, yeah, I keep the commandments and spiritual law perfectly. I'm living as Messiah lives daily. So there are like smaller things, there's simpler things, then there's the meat, the filling, weightier matters, the meat of his word. And I thought, maybe that's what Paul was concerned with. It's been my belief for a long time. He's not talking about simple things. He's talking about maturing and eating meat, not milk. He's not talking about carnal, fleshly sins that people do all the time and struggle with. He's talking about being way beyond that. So, the people that teach the world like they understand his writings, I sure hope that that's what they are before they start teaching false things. Um, I can't even say that I'm beyond some of these things that scriptures teach. Like if I'm just being real honest, um, maybe the creator doesn't have me just where I would like to see it with what Paul's actually talking about, with what Messiah's true words actually mean, what he's talking about, spiritual things. I don't think there's very many people that are there that are mature spiritually. Not many, just a few. And I don't even know if I'm one of them, because the Apostle Paul's talking about not repenting from dead works constantly, from obvious sins and carnal, natural things and all this other stuff. He's talking about growing in Messiah and maturing. He's talking about going on into perfection, yet they're the ones that teach Paul, says, taught, people to sin and break commandments. And he's talking about being perfect the whole entire time. Contrasting what the Pharisees were teaching, which is self-righteousness, their own righteousness, with what Messiah taught and what Paul also taught. Father's righteousness working in you leads to being perfected, not your own righteousness. This is mentioned also in his letter somewhere. They didn't understand. They didn't have the Father's righteousness. They put on their own. These are the spiritual problems and things Paul was trying to get at, I believe, that was so hard to get through to people. It's easy to understand a natural thing, but he's trying to explain something that's not natural, like natural understanding, physical, literal. It's something spiritual that takes place within, that is a real thing, but it just isn't, natural. That's all. It's a thought. It's a deed within. It's not a physical act necessarily. Obviously spiritual death leads to physical, natural brutality and sin and everything, but this is why if you clean the inside of the cup, the outside will be clean too eventually. The reverse of that is the outside is clean and the inside's never clean. If you clean the outside first. But if you focus on the true spiritual law, then the outside will also be clean, will become clean. That's what I read. So people are naturally unclean inside, but they'll do everything they can to make everyone see how clean the cup is on the outside, but nobody can see the inside of the cup. You have to go close and take a look inside. You have to look inside the heart to see what's really going on. But from a distance, from first glance outside, it looks clean. Then he say to his disciples, I don't have to wash just your feet because you're clean. What is he talking about? And they didn't understand it though. They really didn't understand it. He said you will understand it later in the future. You will, but they didn't understand that yet. It's like a symbol. You know, if I wash your feet, then what are you supposed to do if I'm your master? You supposed to be above other people if the master bows down and washes someone's feet. But see, he said, wash everything else too. It's worldly wisdom, isn't it? It sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Sounds good to everyone else, right? 1,000 people listening. Yeah, he's just watching his feet. He doesn't know what he's doing. Listen to the guy. Wash your face, wash my body too. Come on. What are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. Wash everything else too. Some strange teaching, spiritual things you can get from all these things. This is what people do every day spiritually. They've got advice for you, and it sounds and looks great to everyone else. And then the one that's actually doing the right thing looks like he's the idiot that doesn't know what he's doing. It's always going to be like that. So the Messiah washed their feet as an example because that's how he lived. And he wants them to live like that. They were clean everywhere else because of what was taking place. That they're his disciples. They're going to receive the Spirit. They're being cleansed inside. They're clean. So then just the feet from walking, obviously dust, dirt gets dirty. Literal dust, but that really isn't the main point though. Just the bottom is everything above is clean and within is clean. So there's like a natural unclean and then there's a spiritual unclean. I don't see how one is true and one is not. It's either both or none because you can't be, if you can't be, you could be naturally clean and then spiritually filthy, I suppose, if you want to say it like that. But you can't be spiritually filthy. No, I'm not sure. I basically already said it before. It's the same. It's the same meaning with the cup on the outside. You have one, but not. Both. You need both. You can't just have one on the outside clean, but inside too. This is that judgment. Part of that judgment in the world. I've I've come. And this is the judgment that those who see are made to be blind, and those who are blind see. But that's something that you know if you try to pursue, if you want people to understand so badly and see them and understand, it's you're asking for the impossible because the creator has to do that work. He can do it, but if you think you can do it, then we're fooling ourselves then, because the Messiah healed people's sicknesses, diseases, but nobody received the Spirit though yet. Nobody had true understanding yet because they didn't have the Father in them. That's why it's not even possible to have the true understanding without the Father working in you. So how on earth can they say it's our choice? Free will choice, you know. I make myself understand by saying I did it and I can do it. Uh, can't they see that without the Spirit of the Father working in anyone, no one can have understanding? Now, what kind of act is that? There's nothing you can eat. There's nothing you can do. Hitting a bullseye with a dart isn't going to win you anything. You know, you're not going to receive, you can't buy the Spirit. Obviously, we have an example of that. That's wickedness, especially when money's involved around truth, selling the gospel for foul intentions, greedy intentions. What did that guy want to do? He wanted to buy the Spirit. Oh, this is cool. I really like what's going on here. This pleases my flesh. You know, I see people getting healed. I want to do this too. What prices do I have to pay? You give me money, I do what, you know, here's my money, then I can do what you're doing, you know. You can give me back for putting a seed, money seed into the church world. And then the Father will bless you 1,000 times if you give me money first. I'll give you the Spirit if you give me money. He went pretty hard on him for that, for you know, for believing and actually thinking that you could buy the Spirit of grace, truth, the Father's Spirit, to actually have that within you, to just pay some carnal money for it. That you know, if you go and read that, you'll find out that that was a pretty, you know, look what he said to the guy. Look what the disciples said. Look what the prophets, some of them said. Pretty bold, serious things. But no one's allowed to talk like that today. You know, and I'm not saying to do go around do that with foul intentions or something, but see, he got angry because he could see that this guy was false. Was it one of the disciples, Peter, Paul, Stephen? I'm not sure which one. Replied to them, replied to him. You know, you're trying to buy it. This is like what the church worlds do. You know, they throw in your money, and this is what you'll get back. You'll get the Spirit. You'll get good things. You'll be blessed if you give us money. This is exactly what you're not supposed to do with these intentions of becoming wealthy, healthy. You know, they're just frauds. Spiritual wickedness within. They're frauds. They don't care about any kind of truth. Only themselves. That's it. How to gain more of themselves. How to pretend to be good to others so that they can look good, so that they can gain more from themselves. That's it. It's just the repeating circle. That's it for this one. 2 hours long. Way too long. I got 33% battery life left. It just happened to look. I think I'm going to end it here, you know. I don't expect many people to see this. When you see this, it's spiritual wickedness. These are big sins. It just, there's nothing like physical so much to see. So it's as if it's not a big deal, and that's how it ends up being. It's as if it's not a big deal to lie every now and then. You know, nobody knows it except me, right? When I have to lie, I'll lie to benefit myself, because if it doesn't go for me, I'll lie. If it goes for me, well, then I'll probably maybe tell the truth, right? No big deal. I mean, liars will only be sent to the lake of fire. It's no big deal. Lying, it's not a physical thing. Nobody can physically see it, touch it, or taste it, or smell it. It's no big deal. You'd just be thrown in the literal fire for doing something spiritual wickedness, you know? Everybody lies, it's all good, so we'll just keep lying. We'll keep teaching lies and keep teaching lies for truth. No big deal. Nobody sees, no one cares. As long as the money flow's coming in. The price to pay is only lake of fire. It's not that big of a deal. It's evident to me that there is no fear in these people's eyes. None. Zero. It says no fear. It doesn't say 10%. None. No fear is the equivalent, the same thing of having the conscience seared with a hot iron. There is no more fear of sinning or our Creator or anything. It's been seared with a hot iron, you know. No fear in their eyes. With that said, I apologize for the extremely long video and sort of slow video. It's probably boring. It's not as exciting as like watching football or something or doing something else. Not as exciting as setting up a Christmas tree or something, buying presents, I guess, but this is what happens when someone doesn't have love for the truth. It's not, none of this is going to matter. Just talk. They're the ones that are logical, right? They're the ones that bring peace on earth. The ones who say church is for broken people and we just all need to get along and love each other, you know? There's one thing you need to learn in scriptures is that it's the wicked who want to bring peace and unity. Their intentions have always been foul. It's the wicked who want to look good and masquerade as angels of light. It's the wicked that wants to compromise and say, for the sake of keeping peace, don't say anything. Don't ever correct or chastise or bring truth up here for the sake of peace and getting along like God wants us to. You know, then you read them, let the blood be on his own head who doesn't warn someone else, doesn't sound the alarm, doesn't sound the trumpet for something evil, some sin. Let the blood and guilt be on their own head. The one who didn't sound the alarm, oh, we don't care about that word that's directly from the Father's mouth, of which Messiah says, live by every word. We don't care about that. We never do that. That's like Old Testament stuff. We don't live by that. We don't know Moses. We don't keep his laws or want to or have the understanding of them and the spiritual law and commandments. We'll go Moses on them instead of forgiving. No understanding. It's scary how nothing has changed. Humanity. I include myself. I'm not exempt from this flesh, this battle. But you know, these false teachers. Messiah said, if you don't believe in Moses, if you can't believe in Moses, then you can't believe in me because he wrote about me. It all points back to me, the Father in the Son, in us, teaching us spiritually within how to keep the spiritual law and enter the kingdom within, and how to do this within. That's the only teacher, the Father. Man doesn't do this because man is flesh, and that's all he cares about is flesh. He can't give spiritual understanding to someone. He can say words and that's it. Father has to teach it them. He has to give you the understanding and experience, spiritual, to see these things, to actually see them, see what's going on with humanity, who and what it really is, to see what sin really is. beyond the natural. It's beyond the natural sin, you know. Once again, you know, they didn't believe in Moses. Now they said they did, but they didn't really believe in Moses because what what Messiah said is they didn't believe in really keeping his law or understand the law, keep the commandments of that came from, you know, that was given to Moses. That's what that means, that you don't, if you don't believe in Moses, you don't believe in keeping his laws the true way, like Messiah did. They were false lookalikes, pretenders of keeping the law, and they were very carnal, and they focused on carnal things and put them above spiritual things. And they broke a lot of these laws, or at least some of them. Um, you know, but maybe they kept a lot of them naturally. Didn't do them any good, did it? If it's wicked inside, the heart is wicked. Didn't do them any good. This is the true understanding, the spiritual understanding, that Messiah says they shall all be taught by the Father. All shall be taught by him, not by some man, you know. The Father will teach them to see these things, to know them, to do them. The rest is hidden in darkness. Who and what everyone is hides. Behind their own flesh and blood body they hide. Everyone's wearing masks. Literally. Literally. Here we are, Corona, you know. This pandemic, scamdemic. Everyone's wearing masks, right? Should be telling somebody something. Telling a few people something. Everyone wears masks. When everyone wears masks in the society, all of them, let's say, okay, and it's been around for a while, this is all people know. What happens to the one guy walking around in the store without a mask? What goes on? Everyone notices him. What else happens? They're jealous and they look at him and they start hating him because he doesn't wear a mask like they do. How did he do it? How could he do that? I can't do that. I can't do that. Put on your mask. Where's the cops when you need them? Put him in jail. He's not wearing a mask. He's not doing what I do. Oh, yeah, that's what's going on inside. Pure wickedness, pure evil, filth. And people dare call themselves good. Religion dare calls itself good. It's wicked. It is the devil, religion. This is what humanity is. Every day within, lying, cheating, murdering, stealing, committing adultery, all these sins they commit spiritually within their temple, and their temple's destroyed because he destroys the temple that's blasphemed with false images and worship of their false images of themselves and other gods, other images. They worship in their temple, they worship themselves, which is blasphemy. There is no greater blasphemy to self than to worship self. The beast, you know, worships itself and calls itself Elohim, God, above all the other gods. Different than all the other ones. It calls himself God. In its own temple, this is going on. The blasphemous images and blasphemy. Ye are the temple. It's time to graduate from the milk and physical stone statues in a physical stone temple. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about blasphemy within the heart, within the mind, within the temple, within the body, within the person that calls himself God. Who does this? Everyone. What did the serpent say in the beginning? You shall be as gods. Within. Everyone's a god within. Everyone knows that they're God and creator and that they're the king of the jungle. This is what man has to overcome and what has to die. This is what the beast is. You know, put away the natural understanding of some beast. It's the Pope, it's Obama, it's the system, it's that. The whole world is the beast. Everything's always been the beast. People are beasts. And since people are beasts, then the whole entire world is pagan. And then the whole entire world is evil. It has nothing to do with the Father. Therefore, be in the world and not of it.